Welcome back to The Grind for my first Alliance Quest Map 8 video, and we're going to be taking a look at all the fights on path number 5, which is what I have actually in all 3 sections. And the champions that I'm going to be using are Tigra, Kitty, and the last one I'm using is Dr. Doom. Now, Tigra and Kitty do a lot of work for me in this, and it's great because they also both have good synergies for each other. So how this works is there will be shared fights along the path before the path splits into the ultimate number of paths for that section. And this one, as you can see, has bleed vulnerability, ebb and flow heavy, as well as ticking time bomb. And then as you look further down the path, it splits into more paths, and those paths are going to have their own lane identities, and the first fight on those paths is going to have a pre-fight or a cross-fight ability, that applies to all the fights on that path, or enough fights for the remainder of that path. Now, my path is over here, path 5, and we'll take a look at how these nodes work. But basically, after the opponent uses a special attack, they're going to get a buff that makes them stun immune. If you get to 2 bars of power, they are going to get a power gain buff, which can be challenging if you don't deal with it. And then every now and then they're going to become immune to nullifying. So you want to be cautious of that. Now, this first fight is one of the shared fights, which has flux dispersal as well as pull. And I really don't like pull. It's quite annoying. But luckily, Dr. Doom and Kitty Pryde are both okay at dealing with this node. And I did not play this first day very well, just kind of getting a feel for things, getting the hang of things. But Captain Marvel movie, Dr. Doom handles very well because the shock will deal lots of damage to her because she'll take a percentage of her health for each tick. The most annoying part is that they become debuff immune when you knock them down. So we're going to be skipping portions of each of these fights so that we can save time. So the first fight on this path is Hulkbuster. Now, I'm not the most proficient Tigra player, but Hulkbuster is a fairly easy one to get the hang of because you can easily counter his heavy attacks as well as his special 1 and even his special 2, but we're going to be baiting his special 1. So we're going to start off by just getting an intercept, and once you get that neutralized on him, then your Tigra senses are going to stop the duration is going to stop decreasing. So you can see we pushed him to a special 1, baited it, countered with a heavy attack, then we chained a couple heavy attacks on, and then after that we're going to dash back to throw off our special 2, and that's going to deal a big burst of damage. And you'll notice that every 10 seconds he's going to go nullify immune, but that doesn't really matter for this particular fight. And what's nice is with willpower, all those armor breaks he's applying is keeping us topped up. Now, this next fight is against Venom, and I'm going to take in Dr. Doom because I'm not as good with using Tigra against Venom, but Tigra does have that cross-fight ability, and all it really does is when you fail to nullify a buff because of a nullify immunity, then you're going to gain stacks, and at a certain number of stacks of those charges, you'll start to deal burst damage on your hits, but it's not that significant, so it doesn't really matter. So with this fight, I make a big mistake, and we're going to see one of those nodes, how it can be tricky. So when you get to 2 bars of power, the opponent gets a power gain buff, and unfortunately, I'm also pushing him to 2 bars of power at the same time that I get to 2 bars of power, so that power gain buff is going to stack him quite nicely up to 100% power, and all you have to do to counter that is have a nullify ready or have a stagger place on the opponent, depending which champion you are using. So I just ended up finishing off that fight with Tigra because I did end up dying on that fight, but we're going to skip that and go into this Jubilee fight. Now, Tigra is amazing against Jubilee because she gains lots of prowess buffs, and every time a buff fails to trigger because of the neutralized, the opponent gains ruptures. And so now we're going to throw off a nice big special 2, getting lots of big burst damage, and Jubilee's special 1 is also easy to counter. The mistake I made here is I was too far back when I threw the special 1, so that first hit that was unblockable missed her, and then I was too close to her for the second hit for it to be unblockable, so I did hit into her block. Now this next fight is against Nova, and Nova I really don't like too much, but this fight actually goes quite well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pushing him to a special 1, then I'm going to dash back, and I'm not going to be able to phase any of the hits, but because the end of his special attack leaves him close to you, you can counter with a heavy attack after you dex that last part. And then if you're close enough to him, since Tigra's heavy attack lands crosses a large distance, sometimes you can chain in another heavy attack against the wall, which I think we're going to be able to do here, and then throw another heavy attack right away and finish him off. We did skip some of that fight as well, just to get past the ramping back up to the special 2. And then after that, there are some shared fights, again with the pull and flux dispersal, as well as that debuff immunity after knocking them down. And so I'm going to be going up against Odin here with my Kitty Pryde. And the best way to do this fight is to focus on special 1s, because the hits are projectile hits, so you'll get some good damage off of that. The special 2 also hits really hard once you've gotten a lot more prowess potency, which you'll get from using your special 1, but most of the special 2 hits are contact hits, and therefore you get a huge damage reduction, unfortunately. So we're now using a heavy attack to get flux dispersal down, and then we're going to charge in, and every time we phase, we go unblockable, thankfully. That first hit you saw dealt a lot of damage, but all the other hits after that were very minimal damage because of that, being not all contact hits. And then I mistimed that dex, unfortunately, so we did have to go in with Dr. Doom to finish off the fight, but as you can see, Dr. Doom's hits deal decent damage as well, because a lot of them are projectiles. So now we're skipping ahead to this next fight against Mcoc. I did have to revive and heal up Kitty Pryde, which is okay because we've got lots of stuff expiring in our stash. So now we're going to go in with Kitty Pryde, and we're going to throw off a special 1, I believe, first. And you'll see that the damage from the special 1 is quite nice, especially because Kitty Pryde, if she activates any debuffs while phased, they will, rather than being debuffs, they will be passives. So you won't actually lose that with the debuff immunity. So as you can see here, these hits are non-contact, so they deal good damage, and those incinerates are passive, so we still get the damage off of the incinerates. The thing to remember with Kitty Pryde is once you use a special attack, you lose all your prowess, so you have to go back to building up your prowess before you'll be able to phase. And then what makes her great for this fight is with Tigra on the team, she also comes unblockable, so you don't have to worry about Mcoc's auto block. So very nice addition that Kitty Pryde has with Tigra's synergy. Now we do that heavy attack to remove the flux dispersal so we can deal damage, and now we're going to throw off a special 2, and you're going to see we phase through the special attacks, we get more prowess. The first hit dealt a lot of damage, but the next hits, because they're contact, dealt very minimal damage. And now we're building back up, I believe, to another special 2, and we're going to do the same thing. And these fights take quite a while. I'm not sure if maybe just focusing on only special 1s would be better, but we are able to finish it off with that second special 2. Now the next fight we're going to take a look at is another shared fight before my Path 2 fights. And this one has a different node, and I forget what they're called because unfortunately I started recording after the screen. But basically what you do is any special attack hit that you parry, you're going to get a prowess effect, as well as get a true strike passive that has a fairly decently long duration. The prowess effect only lasts for the special attack duration, so you want to use the proper special attack. So you can see we parried that hit, we got a true damage passive and then a prowess effect, and unfortunately we pushed to a special 3, so we get some good damage off the special 3, but I would have preferred to use it with the special 2. And once the special 3 is over, we will lose that prowess effect until you then parry more hits of special attacks, but the fight will be over fairly quickly after, so we're not actually going to be seeing another parry on the special attack, which is totally fine, because we would rather have the fight end sooner than later. So now we just land a basic parry and push him to heavy attack, and it's done. Now, the next fights we have are in Section 2, Path 5 as well, and this one has a different cross fight, which actually is quite useful because when you parry and intercept, you're going to get charges of vigilance, which will help you because this path has faltering, mind, and arrogance. So they are every 10 hits going to get a falter buff, or you're going to get a falter debuff on you, so you'll want to be careful with that. So you want champions that can either bypass that on their own, or with the crossfight ability, every parry or intercept will give you those vigilant buffs or passives, and then you can just ignore a certain number of hits, but each hit that you use it while faltered is going to consume it. As you can see here, Miss failed, but we consumed one of our vigilance, and so you don't want to use too many and then mistakenly have your hits miss. Kitty Pryde is very safe for this because she phases, so even if you miss an intercept, they just hit into your phase and then you can recover. But once you use a special attack, you have to remember that you have to build up those passive prowesses again. So you can see whenever we get faltered, we keep hitting into him, and those passive vigilances will start to be consumed, but we ended up building plenty throughout the fight because of all the intercepting that we did, and then we threw off a special 3 to finish off the fight. Now the next fight is with Captain Marvel movie, and we're bringing in Doctor Doom because of the energy damage, dealing so much damage to Captain Marvel. It just makes it so much easier, and we do make some mistakes in this fight, but that is okay. As long as you intercept, you get that Fury. You just have to be careful not to throw special attacks or do combos that are going to push you over 10 because you are going to get faltered, and that can be a problem, obviously. So this special 2 basically just melted her down, and we're on to the next fight, again with Kitty Pryde, now against Hercules. So we're doing some parries and some intercepting to build up our prowesses at the beginning, as well as to build up those vigilance passives, so that when we do get faltered, we don't have to worry too much and we can do some attacks. But we are going to mess up a little bit and throw a special attack that is going to miss because of the falter, but because Kitty Pryde's special attacks pause the phase, we get saved because we still have some phase left over at the end. So even though we falter and miss and he counters us, we're still phased at the time. So it's not a big deal, which just makes Kitty Pryde so awesome for this lane and for just in general. She's just such a cheat code once you get used to using her, which I definitely have not. This is actually the first place I've used Kitty Pryde, which is not the smartest idea going into a brand new Alliance Quest map, the top map there is, and then use a champion that you've never used before. But we go in with a special 1, and now we're building up to a special 2. And then we're going to have to intercept again to get that Fury back. And then the goal is going to be to throw it off with as many prowess as we can and while phased. So we're trying to land an intercept here. There we go. Throw off that special 2. Unfortunately, we used up all our vigilance buffs. There we still had our phase active, so we didn't get killed, which is very nice. And now we wait out that immortality and finish off the fight. Now this next one, we're into stage 3 now, and the nodes are the same as stage 1 for path 5. So it has a repeat identity in stage 1 and stage 3 when you're on path 5. So again, that's when they throw a special attack, they'll become stun immune, they'll gain a stun immune buff, so you can stagger or nullify it. They're also going to gain a power gain buff when you cross 2 bars of power, and then every 10 seconds they're going to become nullify immune for 10 seconds. But with the cross fight, you can then, for a certain number of failed nullifies, you build up charges, and then after that you'll have a certain duration where your hits do burst damage. But again, that's not really that significant. So here you can see once again we pushed him ourselves over 2 bars, but we were able to nullify that power gain buff, and that's how you can obviously deal with it. And Dr. Doom works great because of all the staggers he can place, his special 1 being really good at nullifying, and then if you have Dr. Doom awakened, when you nullify the power gain, you can get it for yourself, which is what we did in this fight. And so Dr. Doom is fantastic for this lane as well, but in what situation is he really not amazing? He's pretty good almost everywhere. Now this next fight we're going in with with Tigra, and we don't want to rely on parries, which is fine because Tigra doesn't really rely on parries. Once we get him to the corner, bait out a special attack, then we can throw off heavy attacks and lock him down in the corner. I think we're a little too far away here, but we were able to time that as he dashed in, get another heavy attack, dash back, and throw the special 2 for some big burst damage. And on this lane, I think was after a war path, so I did have some boosts active. So we're going to see how that works out in the next couple fights. But here we go, we're building back up to a special 2, throw it off to finish off the fight. Now the next fight that we have, we're going to use Tigra again, and it's against Cosmic Ghost Rider. Cosmic Ghost Rider has easy to counter heavy attacks, as well as his special 1 is also fairly easy to phase the beams with, as we're going to see here. So we pushed him over 1 bar of power. He ends up throwing a heavy attack. So we go in to get the neutralized active. After the special 1, we just hold heavy and phase all those hits, and then we can chain on heavies in the corner, dash back, throw off our special 2, and that is all she wrote. That special 2 did some nuts damage, and then the ruptures took care of the rest. Now this Super Skrull fight goes by even faster. The thing about Super Skrull is his special 1 is easy to avoid, but you have to dex the boulder because the boulder will hit you while you are holding heavy attack. So I dash back, charge heavy, and counter, and it still works out very easy because the spacing works perfectly. Now we're throwing off our special 2, and once again this is even faster because that special 2 blows him up, and that that is all. Now, unfortunately, I was out of energy and I went to bed, and when I got up in the morning, all the bosses were done, but I hope to get some boss gameplay in the near future. If you take this path, let me know what your thoughts are, what champions you used, and I really do hope that this video is helpful. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.